And so what we were seeing there started off with a bar scene. And they may come back up.
Yeah, they're going to come back up again.
The bar scene has to do with the fact that some people will go to a substance, and I use that scene, but it could be a workaholic, it could be someone who throws themselves into exercise, it could be any number of things, but I find that people sometimes will look to something to escape, just for that brief moment to escape.
Right, so it's like a metaphor, sort of?
Yes, exactly, exactly. Then we looked at the next one, then there was a spiritual, it was the name of the painting, and it was a painting of a church. Yeah. And again, the idea was that people, and it didn't have to be a church, but people will turn to something that's spiritual for them, and that will help them survive through these times. And I put the two of those paintings actually next to each other because there are a lot of similarities, and you'd think they're very different in opposite ends of the spectrum, but much the same in that they both have a sense that they draw in individuals for the same purpose, people who don't necessarily know each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet, in those times where there are a lot of people around, there's also a time of solitude where people can go inside.
And then you also used the analogy or the comparison when you were speaking to me about in the spiritual aspect, they go and there's a confessor in a clergy, and in the bar scene that you painted, there was the confessor as the bartender.
Right. And they both deliver some kind of a spiritual food, whether it's a drink at the bar or some right. Yeah. So that was those two. There was another scene of a bedroom, and that one's called Intimacy, because I find at these times, oftentimes partners will come together and say, we will get through this. If it's just you and I together, we at least, as long as we're together, we can get through this, and we will, and they hold on together. But there are other people, just the reverse, where they feel like they're so desperate, and someone says, I can barely keep track of and hold on myself. I can't hold on with you either together. And they find themselves further apart.
Right.
Or depression. Some people become depressed and they get wallowed into that sheet that curls around them and they can't escape. And so that was that one.
The thing about that piece is that bed could mean anything to those individual people you're talking about.
That's
if you're the type that's drawing to your loved one, that bed is where you just came from.
That's
and
right.
if you're the person who can't really deal with this other person right now, that bed is where you were not together.
And it's a very lonely place.
And it's a very lonely place.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
it's beautiful. But then the other piece.
Well, then we saw another piece that had to do with what was like, it's called Nourishment, and it was an open, it's a Hoosier, but an area where you would prepare a meal. Right. And the idea that in times of economic difficulty, people don't go out and necessarily go to restaurants like they once did, or go out and do things, but in fact start doing things in the home, and in doing so invite people into the home. And when you prepare food and cook for someone, let's face it, we only cook for our friends, or generally, but you bring people into your home, you're giving of yourself when you prepare a meal for them. And likewise, when you sit and discuss the world and enjoy each other, conversations, I think, in the home are far more personal and intimate and deep and real than perhaps in a restaurant where there's the filter of the din of noise, and people can, I can't hear that comment. What'd you say? And move the conversation on.
And don't forget the waiter interrupting.
That's right.
And, asking you when your mouth is full, how is it?
And the little guy with the
final,
violin.
That's right. That's right. The final painting was the painting where there was a man sitting alone, recessed deep in a room, and that one is it's called The Note, and that's really looking at these times when times are very good and lush. People don't have to really look at themselves. They're busy. They're doing things. They're going places. They're out. They're just away from themselves. But when times are difficult, it, I think, forces us at some point to really look inside and face ourselves in the mirror. And I think that's what this one is, more of a reflective moment where the man is very much alone. He could be writing a note to his children. He could be writing a letter to a friend, a long-lost friend. He could be doing a crossword puzzle that just allows him that moment of quiet. And there is a hole across the top of the painting. He could be writing a suicide note, because many people have lost their elderly, have lost their retirement, and at 69, 79, they look and they have nothing. And what now? And so that one is a little deeper, and that's where that comes from.
Well, honestly, from an artistic standpoint, because I'm also an artist as well, and I believe that our spiritual connection comes from the fact that we both received our gift from the same source, which is, in my opinion, God Himself. One of the things that I was looking at in your work was the deepness of it.
Oh, yeah.
And how you managed to convey your message so clearly. I mean, that's difficult as an artist, because people tend to interpret things with a wide range of stuff. You know, everybody's interpretation is different, but you bring it home, and I tend to be on the same page as you.
Yes. Well, I'm a news fanatic. I listen to the news a lot. I listen to NPR a lot, and so those ideas were resonating for quite some time. And so when it came time to do this, it was all there. It came very easily.
Well, the collection is called Interiors. Is that correct? And that it can be seen at the Delaware Center for the Contemporary Arts. And how long will you be showing there?
I'll be there through the end of October, so through the month.
It is very well worth your time to check out this exhibit. It is absolutely beautiful. One thing you don't see in our photographs, thank you, Bill, for doing them, is the depth and the texture of these when we walked in, it's just amazing. You just want to reach into them. They're beautiful, and they're so colorful and vibrant. Please go see it. I think it's free to get into the.
It is free.
It is free. So just go.
And she has a studio there.
Yes, just go. Just go. We'll be right back with more of In the Upper Room Outreach Ministries, The Monitor.